Hello and welcome to the Think Share. My name is Zach, here to bring to what I've been thinking about, sharing about, talking about, listening to, reading about that doesn't belong in math class. If you're new to the channel, I invite you to subscribe. Today I have with me my mother, who's going to be sort of co-hosting with me, and we're going to be interviewing a young man named Dewey, and he owns / operates a podcast that's doing very well, as well as a YouTube channel. He recently found me on YouTube, was talking to me in one of the live stream chats, and he asked me to be on his podcast. So I wanted to pay back the favor even before that. And by the way, Dewey, yesterday you sent me money for the PO box. You sent me way more than you said you would. Thank you so much for that.
Well, you're welcome. I believe in you and I believe in your message. Therefore, I try to put as much force behind you as I can to help you excel. I know that it wasn't a lot of money, but like I've been telling you, Zach, you should set up a Patreon because you have listeners that love you that would put $1 or so up a month, and that'll help you fund your channel and stuff. And you kind of, in the introduction, you kind of gave me more credit than what I should have got, because I am very inactive on my YouTube channel, and you're trying to help me become more active on that and kind of branch out into different things. It's kind of hard though, because I own and operate a vehicle detailing business, and I've got 2 shops, if you will.
Yeah.
And so, time's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
With that.
You were telling me the other day that you accidentally put the other detailing businesses out of business.
Yeah.
How did you accidentally put 2 other detailers out of business by starting your own?
Well, I wouldn't use the word accidentally. I would personally say they focused on putting me out of business, and I focused on me. I focused on it's called DF detailing.
Yeah.
I focused on that. I focused on making me better, making my company better, not putting them out of business. And eventually people started flocking over to me. I spent more money in advertisements than they did. And, eventually people are saying, this guy, he's cheaper. He's got high quality. His workers are nice. If I get a bad report about one customer,
Yeah.
one customer comes to me and says, so-and-so was mean to me, I pull them aside and I require them to take a sensitivity course.
Really?
Yeah. And it costs me money in the long run. But if one customer is upset, then you've got to learn from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
But to answer your question, I just had a better product, I guess, and I found it outrageous that they were charging up to $300 for to clean your vehicle, and I started charging maybe $100, $120, and people were like, he's cheap, and he comes and travels to us, and the other people don't. It's more convenient. And so I looked for ways that, competitors, what competitors weren't doing. And I started doing that.
Awesome. Yeah, I was glad to hear you were telling me yesterday that you felt kind of guilty after doing that, and I'm glad you came around. Another thing I wanted to ask you, so I realized that besides my introduction of who you are, I want to have you introduce yourself. What would you say? What would you say your podcast and or your YouTube channel are about? Like to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Utah, still live here. Contrary to popular belief, not all of us are Mormon. I'm not a polygamist, like a lot of people, for some weird reason, think. I was raised Southern Baptist. My dad's Mormon, but I chose to go through the Southern Baptist church. But anyway, I would describe myself, the best adjective I could use is farm kid, because I grew up to learn the value of a dollar, the value of, everything, the value of time, just from working on the farm with my grandpa. Like, for example, if I dropped a screw, he would say, find that screw, pick it up, because that's a penny, or that's half a penny, And so to describe myself, I would say I'm a farm kid. And I try to be as humble as I can. My podcast is about it. I say that it's about anything and everything awesome. By that, I mean it's stuff I find interesting. And by me finding it interesting, I hope that my audience does.
Yeah.
And some of the people, my listeners, they request episodes. So, like the serial killer ones, I actually had my detailing secretary do I said, take a break from the detailing stuff and start doing research on Jeffrey Dahmer, because people were really, really interested in that. And I did a poll, and people it overwhelmingly wanted to learn about him.
Really?
He's a polarizing guy.
I was
Murdered
gonna say,
like 18 people. I don't know why that's interesting to people, but
Jeffrey Dahmer. He was what didn't they just make a TV show where?
yeah.
I forget who, oh no, I think it was Jack the Ripper. They made a TV show about recently. I was thinking something else, but
No, that was Jeffrey Dahmer.
oh, it was?
Yeah, and they actually filmed it at his actual childhood home.
Really?
Yeah.
They
Wouldn't that
filmed
be so
the show?
creepy?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'd do if I was an actor.
Was he a cannibal?
Wasn't he a cannibal?
Yeah, he was.
Oh boy.
Ugh.
And he was just a horrible guy. But when it comes to work, since you asked this, I already cleared this quote with you, and I promised I wouldn't cuss.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try my hardest on that. But I know Thomas Jefferson is a controversial figure now, because it's been revealed that he owned slaves.
Yeah.
But I still live by this quote. I don't endorse slavery, but it says, I find that the harder I work, the more luck I seem to have. That's his quote.
Yeah.
And I carry that along with another quote by, surprisingly, Richard Nixon in my pocket. And we'll get to that quote a little bit later on, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I think I've heard something similar to that quote from like Richard Branson or something. I think there was also like, I think it was Arnold Palmer or something had a similar quote to that. So yeah, even if there's a lot of great quotes that can come from people that we don't always necessarily look up to, but I won't judge you for quoting Thomas Jefferson. So I think one of the things that I feel like exists for a lot of people our age and younger than us, I don't know if the generation older than us has the same want or need or feeling to do so, but what is it that caused you to want to have your own podcast and or YouTube channel, and what was it that like kicked you into action? Because I feel like there's a ton of people out there that want to create these things, and I'm always just curious why they don't start, or what it is that gets them started.
So I was watching the news during the after President Trump won the nomination.
Mm-hmm.
And there was members of Black Lives Matter, and there was members of the Women's March,
Yep.
and things of that affiliation, people of that affiliation, and they started being violent, and that frustrated me. So I wanted to, I downloaded an app on my iPhone called Just Press Record. If you want to start a podcast, I very highly recommend that app, because you just set it down and you say whatever your heart desires. But I said, look, I know what your goal is, and I know what you want to achieve, but violence is never the answer, because you hurt your cause by being violent. And so many people were arrested, and since they were African American people, a lot of them are going to be treated unfairly, because that's just how our prison system is, whether you want to admit it or not. And so I wanted to get my 2 cents out there somewhere. And if 5 people listen to it, hey, 5 people got a piece of my mind. And that's pretty much what started it.
So it sounds like
then
there was enough.
Sorry, Zach?
It sounds like there was sort of like enough emotional reaction there to sort of kick you into action. Versus
Yeah, absolutely.
have like these good ideas, but there's no real emotion behind it, and so it never kind of brings them into action. I feel like I had a similar experience. Like the YouTube channel came from writing a book, came from an idea I had in the car, which I got really emotional about. I think if I hadn't gotten so excited and like happy and emotional about it, I wouldn't have started writing the book that day during one of my math courses for graduate school. I pretty much just sat in class and started writing, and I might as well have just skipped, but they thought I was just doing work. But yeah, I ended up writing the first like couple chapters just in class because I was so excited. I needed to be in action, and I feel like for all the people out there that are interested in building something, when you have enough excitement around it, you gotta kind of let that emotion guide you towards action, especially if it's something you've been thinking about for a long time and it sparks you. So
yeah, and yes to that, but I want to say something because I don't want to confuse the two topics. I'm thinking of writing I guess a manuscript. I don't know if that's what you would call it. So
yeah,
it's not going to be a book, but it's how to start a business with maybe $100. Because if you go to a lawyer, they're going to charge you $900 to $1,500 to start a business, and there's so many ways around that, and there are routes that I took. And I wanted to release a memoir, but what you were saying about emotion guiding you, as horrible as it sounds, when you're running a business, you have to take your ego and you have to take your emotion, and you have to separate them from the two, from business. There came a time where I fired my best friend.
wow.
Oh, wow.
And I told him, you're not doing a good job. I'm going to have to let you go because I have to treat you like everyone else. It's not fair. And so I had to do that. And when I got home from work that night, I felt horrible. I felt absolutely horrible. But with business, you've got to separate those two. And I'm not saying be ruthless, because there's other ways around doing things. But what I'm saying is, treat everyone equally, and don't let your emotions guide you in business.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get Zach an Audible sponsorship. And I've personally got an Audible sponsorship, which when Zach comes on my podcast, I don't know if he cares or not if I say my podcast or my affiliation link on here, but I want everyone to buy Zach's book, on his audiobook, because I've started listening to it. I'm 45 minutes in. It's about 5 or so hours. It's you listen to it, and I'm already inspired. I had a horrible day yesterday, and I was listening to it, and I thought, man, the way that he looks at the world is so inspirational to me, and it's I highly recommend that people buy your book. And
Thank
I'm holding you to your promise of sending me an autographed copy. I don't care if I have to pay you for it.
Well, you already did pay me in many ways, as well as also with money. So I guarantee it's coming. Don't worry.
Because you're going to be big one day. I told you on our phone call, we spoke for about an hour and 45 minutes. You're a very easy person to speak to, and I enjoyed every minute of the conversation. But we also talked about something that I hope you don't care if I bring up. And I'm going to bring it up on my podcast too, but I don't care. I asked you how you became such an avid supporter for LGBT plus rights.
Yeah.
And I know you're interviewing me, and I'm kind of turning the tide a little bit, but
Okay.
Mrs. Watson, Joan, has she has a lot to do with that. And could you tell us about what you said?
So I'll reiterate the question for a second. So originally he had asked me, why is it that I'm such a supporter of the LGBTQIA community? And my answer was sort of like, my mom was a huge influence on me for being such a supporter. And you really did give an awesome answer. Would you be willing to sort of repeat yourself? So the question is, what caused me? And my answer is half of her, and the other half was my dad. When I was in middle school / high school, he used to back when gay marriage and civil unions were being legalized, a lot of people were writing into the paper and talking a lot about a lot of people were bashing it, a lot of people were supporting it, but a couple people that were bashing it, my dad wrote these really eloquent like targeted letters back into the paper to respond to them. I mean, I feel like he had a couple almost conversations with letters to the editor going back and forth, maybe like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rebuttals long. And so he was a huge influence. I remember he got something in the mail, like an anonymous letter from somebody saying, thank you so much for what you're doing for us. And I remember that was a huge moment. But I mean, I think before that I was very accepting of gay people. But tell us a little bit about what caused me to be so open and loving.
Well, what caused me to be so open was I was raised in a household where especially my mother was a really good role model for tolerance and understanding, and she was very empathetic to people. And I was telling Dewey this story about watching a movie with her one night, and there was a scene in it where this man ends up committing suicide because somebody's trying to blackmail him with a photograph of his arm around another man when he was in the Navy. And he was married to a woman, and he was running for office, and he commits suicide in the story. And I was in middle school. I had no idea what was going on in this movie at this point. And I relived this moment a lot because I thought about, my mother could have responded in a number of different ways, but all I said to her was, I don't understand what's going on here. And so all she said to me was that the man loved another man when he was a younger man, and she never put any value on that. She didn't say, oh, that was a horrible thing, or they're trying to, but she didn't put any value on it. And I think that was a really great way to just answer the question without any judgment. And so I think I carried that for a while until I got to college. And, you know, when I was in college, it was the early 70s, and I didn't really know anything about homosexuality. And I almost the first week I'm there, I meet a guy who doesn't tell me he's gay. And I really like this guy, and I spent a lot of time with him. And then at some point he comes out to me, and he was one of my dearest friends. And then I started hanging around with this whole enclave of his friends. And I just saw the pain that those guys were living in all the time, because in those days, people were closeted. You know, coming out was, even still, there's a lot of prejudice, but not like it was in those days. I mean, they had to basically hide.
It was dangerous.
It was, and it still is in some states, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think Zach and I forget, we live in Massachusetts, where it's so liberal and wonderful here.
Yeah.
And very painful.
In Utah, going off of that, Joan, I want to call her Mrs. Watson because I was raised by Southern people, but she told me to call her Joan, so I'm calling her Joan. But going off of that, Seth and I, you weren't here to meet Seth, I don't think, Joan, but
yeah, I saw Seth.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
And listeners from my podcast know that who Seth is. He's my better half. And we don't hold hands in public in fear of, or we don't show any public display of affection, no hugs, nothing, because we're, it's me. This is my decision, because if somebody came to hurt Seth, I would fight them. I would hold a live grenade for Seth. And I'd fight them to my death, but there was many ways that they could also hurt Seth. And so I made the executive decision that we couldn't have PDA, public display of affection, where we were. And I've been called a faggot, I've been called a queer by people of my own family.
Oh, that's horrible.
But there's been some really good people in my family that makes up for it. So
yeah, I remember I was talking to you earlier about well, I talked to you yesterday a little bit about your story kind of coming out. I'd love for you to share that with the audience. And then you had also said you wanted to share sort of the good and the bad of that, because I think there's in the past couple of days, there've been a lot of people coming on asking asking for advice on coming out, asking for advice on like, how do I talk to my parents? How do I talk to my community, my family, my friends, etc. And I think you had a couple of different stories about different parts of your family. I think the viewers would get a lot out of it. So tell us your story there.
Okie doke. So this is something that if you're gay, this is something that you don't want to do. I originally came out as bisexual because for some reason I felt that would make mom more comfortable with my sexuality. And so, and of course, later on down the road, she found out that I'm a full-fledged homo. And she it kind of softened the blow, but she was sitting down. I think she was either watching television or writing something. I don't know. But I walked in and I said, "Mom, I'm bisexual." And my mistake there was I should have said, "Mom, I'm gay." And her and I, we have a very fun relationship. We joke with each other constantly. I pull pranks on her. She pulls pranks on me. I waited for her to come out of her bedroom, and I would scare her, and she would reciprocate that. And anyway, she was like, oh, ha ha, you know. She kind of wrote it off as a joke. And I walked back into my bedroom, and I was so relieved that I finally told somebody that I started crying, but it wasn't tears of sadness or sorrow. It was tears of joy.
Yeah.
And I walked back to the living room, and she saw that I had been crying. And she said, "Oh my God, you're serious?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm serious." And she sat me down. She was sitting kind of kitty corner to me, and it was she started crying, and I said, "Okay, what I'm gonna do, Mom." I call her Mama. So what I'm gonna do, Mama, is I'm gonna leave the house. I'm gonna give you 20 or so minutes to let everything sink in. Please don't call and tell Dad. So what does she do? She calls and tells Dad because she wanted a support system for herself. And according to her, my dad said, what's more important to you? The fact that we get to keep our son, or the negativity of him being gay? What is more important to you? And she said, well, keeping my son, obviously. And he said, well, we've got to learn to adapt. And I came home.
So you were afraid to tell your father? Were you afraid to tell your father?
No, I wanted to tell him on my own. I told my mom, don't call Dad. I wanted to tell him.
Oh, I understand. So you were more fearful of telling your mother than your father?
No, I was more because my mom and I are closer.
But your father sounds really cool.
Yeah, my dad works about 90 hours a week, so I don't see him much, unfortunately. But anyway, I get a phone call from Dad, and she didn't do that on purpose, but she had no one else to reach out to for advice, my mom. So she called my dad, and you know, I would say about 10 minutes after me leaving, my phone rings, and I call my dad Dado. So it said, call from Dado. And I kind of looked at the phone, and I was like, man, I need to let this go to voicemail. And then something said, no, you need to talk to him sooner or later, so now's the best time. So I answered the phone, and he always begins the conversation with, hey, pal, how's your day going? And I said, good. How about yours? We small talked for a minute, and he said, so I heard the news. I heard you're gay. You're going to have to give Mom and I a chance to get used to this, because we've never had a gay person in our family.
That they know of.
Yeah.
Right, that they know of. And he said, but nothing has changed about my son. The only thing that has changed is what we know about my son.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And
how old were you when you had this conversation?
19.
Oh, you were 19. And subsequently, have your parents ever said to you that they thought there were times when they thought you might be gay? I can't believe that a parent doesn't know this. Like, I figured out that Zach was straight when he was about 3.
Right. I'm a very masculine person. And my mom and my dad say this, but I think that they're full of hoi polloi. But they said that looking back, they could tell that I was gay. I had girlfriends in high school. I went to dances with girls and things of that nature. And they never asked me. They never said, "Hey, Dewey, let's talk. Are you gay?"
Yeah.
They never even hinted at it. At least, unless I was totally oblivious to it.
I will tell you something, back to the original question about raising Zach to be the way he is. I remember when he was a little boy, I decided that I wanted to be sort of forthright about this. And I sat him down once he started to understand sex and sexuality. And I explained to him that his father and I did not care what his sexuality was. We just wanted him to be happy, and he could talk about any of that with us at any time. Because I never wanted him to be afraid to have to come out to me, although I think I probably would have figured it out. But
Oh yeah,
I don't remember that conversation.
I did, because I didn't want you to be afraid. Well, you were probably in 5th or 6th grade or 4th grade, maybe. I can see why you wouldn't remember it, but it was sort of typical of our conversations at home anyway. So,
and Dewey, I'd want to go off that. So, one of the important reasons, or one of the key things that happened in my life that caused the pride flag to show up in my classroom was I had a conversation with the husband of one of my really good friends. So his name's Rob, and he's gay, and he's actually married to a straight woman, and they know each other as for what they are. It's an interesting relationship. But I was talking to him one night because I was about to be.
That's more common than you think, Zach.
Really?
Oh yeah, that's a lot more common, because in the Mormon community, they say, well, being gay is sinful, and they'll say, I'm gay, I prefer men, but the scriptures say we gotta be married to a woman or a man, and they'll have kids and they'll die very unhappy, I assume.
And that's not okay. So that's not considered a sin in the Mormon religion. I mean, because you're lying, right?
The way I look at it is, when I was in like 7th grade, I thought, I'm just going to get married to a woman, because I went to like a Baptist church, and they said, oh, hellfire, brimstone about gays and all of this. And I kind of came to the, no pun intended, but I had like a come to Jesus moment where I was like, you know what? I'm going to marry a woman. I'm going to have kids. And I can suppress this. And
I'm sure lots of people do that, right?
Yeah, a lot of people will. And I went years later, and when I was in about 10th or 11th grade, I looked myself in the mirror and I said, Dewey, you're gay.
Good for you.
And you got to do that. And it sounds weird, but if you're having trouble and you like the same same-sex if you have same-sex preference, look in the mirror and say, whatever your name is, I'm gay. And Zach, could I put a pin in what you was about to say? I know I interrupted you, and
they're the ones the question answered.
But I have a very important thing to talk about before I forget.
Okay. And then we're gonna answer one of the chat questions that CPPS Vids has been very patiently waiting. So
let's do it
after. So the questions CPPS Vids had asked earlier, and I know it was geared towards me, and I wanted to save it for after because I'm here to interview you, not me. But CPPS Vid said, have any students ever told you how much you moved them or seen a positive change in your classroom when you put up the flag? I think my response to that would be, the flag has been there since the beginning of each of the years, so I haven't noticed a difference in the community because it's been there the whole time for the relationship that I've known my students. And honestly, I don't think there's been a couple like positive comments, like, Mr. Watson, I'm glad you have the flag up. There was one person from my last school that really voiced how comfortable they were talking to me because of it, and because of like how obvious it was to them that I was very accepting, and they didn't have full acceptance at home. There was a lot of, I think, suppression there. Like, I think the parents kind of knew but didn't want to. I'm not really sure what the situation was completely at home, but there are definitely a couple of students that showed and were very appreciative of it. One of them wrote me a letter, and I still have it to this day. I'll probably hold on to it forever. Just knowing that a symbol like that, and kind of who I'm being at the front of the classroom, and who I'm being when someone yells the word FAGGET, like as a teacher, like your true colors come out in moments like that when someone speaks up, and the way you react makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely.
So I think not necessarily the flag, but more so my obvious opinion towards my acceptance towards the LGBTQIA community. There have been a couple of students who have said that, and see PPS vids, I would say that that Dewey's been very he's shared how moved he's been by seeing that I have a pride flag in my class, despite the fact that he's never been in my room.
I love Zach. I've spoke to him for 1 minute, 1 hour, 45 minutes plus this chat. We've texted back and forth a little bit, emailed back and forth, but there's so much love in the world that needs to go around, and I love Zach. And I'm very defensive of Zach because he's my friend now.
How did you find Zach?
He was he made a video about why he hung the gay flag.
Yeah.
Have you watched that video?
Of course. But how did you were you looking for pride flags, or how did you find it?
It just popped into my recommended on YouTube, and I was like, a teacher hanging a pride flag. Sorry, I dropped my pen. A teacher hanging a pride flag, that's kind of unprecedented. At least it was to me. And so I clicked on it, and I saw that he frequently did, pretty much every night he did live streams. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to subscribe to his channel. And I hate when my phone goes off, Zach.
Yeah.
I hate it. But I turned on YouTube notifications, so it beeped at me for you. And I just can't say enough positive things about you. Joan, you did a great job. You and your husband did. He's a good guy, a good friend, a good ally. But anyway, I went on there and said, hey, will you be on my podcast? And he said, yeah, let's make it happen. And I emailed him my phone number, and we started, he called me yesterday, and we spoke for quite a while.
35,
Yeah.
And
can I ask you a question about the public schools in Utah? I'm assuming that's where you went to school.
Yes, ma'am.
Do they have gay straight alliances there in the high schools?
No.
Now, just so you know, in Massachusetts, probably every public high school has a club that's a gay straight alliance.
It wouldn't hurt to start one, but I think that even if we did, I think that gay students would be too scared to attend them.
Yeah.
Because people, Zach, you mentioned that you watched 13 Reasons Why, right?
Yeah.
Did you watch the second season of that?
Alyssa and I have started watching it. It certainly started to conjure up and bring up some sort of painful memories, that sort of from last year's well as some other things that have happened throughout our lives, and it's been it was hard to watch. So we're making sure not to binge watch it like we did last year. We binge watched it over 2 days, and then we were depressed for about a week straight. So
Yeah.
we're taking our time real slow this time. I think we're on episode 3 or 4.
Steph and I, we watched all the way through, and you know the character Tyler, the photographer.
Well, don't give any spoilers.
Well, it's not a huge spoiler.
Okay.
Because something similar happened in my school.
Yeah.
So he gets cornered by some people and some football players in the bathroom, and they beat him up, and they grab a guy grabs a mop handle and very roughly sodomizes Tyler with it to where it's bloody. Something similar like that happened in my school.
Oh, that's horrible. How did they handle that?
The
kid got kicked out of school.
The police got involved.
Oh, good.
The school expelled the person, and I think he got because he put it so far up there that it could have killed him pretty much.
Yeah.
And so he got charged with attempted murder.
Good.
And he's still in jail.
Wow.
Great.
But yeah, I very highly recommend, Zach, that you skip that episode. I'll have to get back with
which
you.
Which one is that? Do you know?
I'll have to get back with you on that. I'll send you a text.
But I'll know the moment that he starts getting cornered to start looking away and make sure I have a full stomach, because I actually fainted when I watched the scene where she I remember being like, honey, I feel weird. And then she looks over at me, and the next thing I remember was I was like, my eyes were up and everything was shaking and numb, and I was like, what happened? And she's like, honey, you fainted.
I vomited.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had tears coming down my face and I vomited.
Mom doesn't have Netflix. It's probably a good thing.
But before I move on, it's like, this is my channel. I wanted to talk to you about 2 things, Zach.
Yep.
Going back to the question where you asked me about my coming out story.
Yep.
It wasn't all, excuse the pun, but it wasn't all rainbows and flowers, you know.
Yeah.
I had a member of my family who shall remain nameless. Zach, you know who it is, because I spoke to you about him.
Yeah.
But he called me a faggot. He's called me a queer.
Oh.
And he is a close family member. And there's also, I don't care about this one, but my sister, she's called me a faggot and things and all of that. And when I came out to my little brother, he said, we was driving to Walmart, and I said, Dirk, I'm gay. And he said, well, it looks like I got to buy you an ice cream now, because it's about time that you tell me, because I guess he knew.
Oh, that's cute.
That's good.
But
wait a minute. Can I ask you something here? Okay,
Yeah,
so your sister is saying these things to you, right? And is your sister living in the house with your parents?
No, ma'am. She's my older sister. She's closer to Zach's age. She's never called me those things to my face. It's all been via text messaging, Facebook, etc. But the fact that I've got my mom, my dad, and my brother, I don't care, you know. And my grandpa, who's 80 years old, he said to me, I don't see why people have a problem with it. It's stupid. And he's 80.
I'm glad you have some support there, because your sister is Have you ever addressed it with her that it's hurtful to you? And have you ever said anything like that to her?
No, because truth be told, it's not hurtful to me.
It's not hurtful to you.
No. And we've got like a really bad relationship, her and I. She has two beautiful little girls who I love more than anything. And she'll hold the girls over our head, so to speak. So if she's upset at you for one reason, then guess what? You don't get to see the girls.
Oh,
And I
boy.
haven't been able to see my nieces for 2.5 years now because there was I don't want to get into it too much, but there was a trial, a court trial where I was a witness. And I was a witness for the prosecution while she was on the defense. And Zach, I'll tell you more privately, but she wasn't thrilled about the fact that I was not willing to perjure myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, it sounds like a very complicated relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've grown thick skin. It's really hard to do, especially when you love people and you think people love you back.
Yeah.
A lot of things are said out of anger. So I don't know if she really hates me because I'm in her words, a faggot. But to me, I like to try to take the power from the word faggot and like they have with queer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I want to take the power back from that and take the power from the slur and be able to say faggot and sorry Zach, I need to cut back on that word.
It's okay. I think it's appropriate for this part of the conversation. I mean, I think it reminds
I think
me.
we need to take the power out of it. But
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, this is my last thing I'm going to ask you. I guess I'm just like a natural Larry King. But I recommended Zach got a P.O. box because I think that so many of your audience feels like me. And once you release that information, you can receive letters and like you said, cool hats and what have you, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And you'll get, because I told you on the phone, Zach, I'm positive that you've saved lives. One life, or even if it's just one life, but I'm positive that you've saved at least one life while doing what you're doing. Because people look for people like you, adults who love people no matter what. And man, your message is just so powerful. And I guarantee you that because of the size of your audience, I guarantee you that there was someone contemplating, man, I'm getting bullied at school, or my parents are jerks. I just want to end things. And then they turn on ThinkShare or Zach Watson. And they see, hey, the whole world isn't like this. So maybe there's more to live for. And I'm very confident that you've saved lives. And the reason I sent you money for the P.O. box is because you deserve to see that. You deserve to hear those stories.
Thank you so much. I'm very humbled right now.
You've always been humble. You're a good guy.
Not always, but
well, he's a bow tie aficionado, and I was trying to see if I I was talking to him earlier about me starting wearing bow ties because I have over 200 regular ties, but I need to learn how to tie a bow tie first. And Zach's got it down.
Pretty quick.
Does your wife help you pick out the color schemes and stuff?
No. Ironically, I think I actually asked my mom and my mother-in-law do a lot of like holiday shopping, and so I said I want like a bigger selection of bow ties. So I think my mother-in-law got me this one. It's actually if
it's math. It's math, right?
Yeah, it's math equations.
When I'm wearing a suit, I'll send a picture. Oh wow, that's awesome. That is so cool.
Yeah, it's legit.
That's really cool. And when I am wearing a suit for whatever occasion, I put everything together. I take a picture and I send it to my mom. And my mom's brutally honest. If she thinks the suit jacket's ugly, she'll say that's the ugliest suit jacket I've ever seen. And if she sends me a link to something and she's like, what do you think about this? What do you think about me buying this? And I would say, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. We've got a really good relationship. But it's it's not to be hurtful. It's more on a joking type thing. But is there any more questions from Zach's fans that you'd like to ask?
Any of them you noticed?
I haven't seen
I
any.
haven't seen one recently.
Hello to Ms. Kathy and Jesse.
Yeah, I just want to give a couple of shout outs to a couple of people in the chat because a couple of you have some pretty solid relationships with. So first off, I got one of my favorites, Libby Easton. She lives across the big drink we call the Atlantic Ocean. She's been one of my earliest fans. She actually made me a tribute video, and
that was beautiful.
Oh yeah, he saw that one. When you guys were saying that video has helped save lives, she was vigorously nodding her head with comments. Libby, I look forward to speaking with you after this. Where we've decided that we're gonna help her knock off one of the things on her bucket list, which is to get an A on a math test, which is
what's her name?
Libby Easton.
Libby, you're gonna kick butt. I would use the other word. You're gonna kick butt on that math, in math, and I'm sending you all good energy, and I know you can do it.
I believe in her too. I think she doesn't give herself nearly enough credit. Another person I wanted to give a shout out to from Gemma. Gemma Grace said she was gonna buy my book. So Gemma, I look forward to. I'm thinking after or before his podcast on Saturday that we could do my interview with you. But for those that don't know Gemma, she's been very active in these chats. She is autistic and she has a channel that's really dedicated to bring awareness to the community, to the YouTube community, to the world, about what it's like to have autism, what it's like.
What's her link, Zach?
What's her link?
Yeah.
I don't know if she's still in there. How would you like me to send it to you?
Could you text it to me?
Yeah, I can do that.
Awesome, because I might want to have her on my podcast too.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Sorry to cut you out.
No worries.
But that's amazing. So, Zach, I'm going to send you a link to a video that made me cry, but happy tears. But
should we watch it on here right now?
Let's do it.
I can do screen shares. That's one of the cool things about Google Hangouts that you'll discover. One other thing, another person I want to shout out. So Miss Kathy and Jesse. Kathy's a really awesome mom. She decided at some point in time she wanted to read like children's books on YouTube, and she got a lot of attention for it, and a lot of people have viewed her. And she, I found her one. She started commenting one day on my Lemons for Leukemia challenge, And since then, we've had a pretty awesome back and forth. She came on. I am a man. Oh, wait. If you send me the link, I'll put it on. If you text me the link, I can put the link. I can show the video on here.
I'm trying to. Facebook is so weird about sharing.
Yeah, Facebook is a little weird. Google and Facebook don't really get along.
Maybe let's see if I do it this way.
But you can. I think you can send me a Facebook link on. In the.
Oh, found out how.
Texting or in the chat that we actually have for the Google Hangout. But last thing I just want to say.
Grace is beautiful.
Yeah.
And you're getting that from a gay guy, Gemma.
But yeah, Miss Kathy and Jesse. So she has a daughter, Jessie, that's super active, super energetic, and she's going to be handing off the channel to her daughter as she grows a bit older. But Miss Kathy's been doing most of the editing, and Jessie loves making slime videos. And I didn't think I would ever end up watching slime videos and enjoying them, but the few things that I have seen Jessie do with it, I've enjoyed.
Say hi to Skylar and friends.
Oh, did you get to see my interview with Skylar and friends?
I don't know.
And Skylar and friends just jumped on. He just recently started live streaming, and Dewey, I can see you now in the near future doing live streams similar to this on your channel, because I think it'd be great to see your podcasts also evolve. It I have a freaking blast doing these interviews and like just chatting it up and apparently being interesting enough that how many people are watching right now?
7.
Absurd. Just absurd that people find this interesting sometimes.
Yeah, your numbers are low because I'm a boring guy. Usually you get 20 or 30.
Take ownership of that, Julie.
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed to say that. If anything, the only reason that the numbers would be down is because I didn't do a good job making clickbait or the way that I created the title.
Okay, I think I sent it to you via text. Would it be easier for me to send it to you via email?
No, because I get there we go.
Did you get it?
I got it. It'll be up in a second. So give us a little context for this.
Okay, so it's a kid with Down syndrome who he's talking about how he deserves equality. He's been to the White House twice. He's addressed Congress.
I am a man.
It's amazing.
Here we go.
See me as a human being, not a birth defect, not a syndrome. I don't need to be eradicated. I don't need to be cured. I need to be loved, valued, educated, and sometimes helped. What should that help be? Provide training to parents and babies as soon as possible. Provide medical care, eye exams, and glasses. Send us to school with everyone else. Provide job training and coaches until we learn to work on our own. Most of all, expect competence, not failure. By the way, the cost to the rest of you of providing that help is the cost of a single cup of coffee per month. What difference will inclusion, acceptance, and early intervention mean? Allow me to use my life as one example of what's possible now. If it sounds like I'm bragging, it's because I am. I went to school with my neighbors. I was included in ordinary classes. The common kids and I learned from each other. I learned to fight for the right to be treated like everyone else. I have been to the White House twice, and I didn't have to jump the fence either time. I have had a lead role in a movie and a recurring role in an award-winning TV show. And my writings have been published all over the world. Last October, I spoke to the U.S. Senate. That testimony went viral. Over 160 million people have viewed it. So what is the point of all my bragging? Simply that a life with Down syndrome can be as full and exciting as any other.
Wow, that was awesome.
Yeah.
It's uplifting.
Absolutely.
So no matter what you got going on in your life, if you have setbacks, disabilities, or things of that nature, you can still thrive in this country, I think. Growing up, when you're raised by a Southern grandmother and grandfather, you learn manners. You learn how to be a gentleman. And my grandpa told me, to be a man, you've got to carry these things with you: a wallet, a watch, a pocket knife, a handkerchief, and the United States Constitution. I carry it with me, and I carry all the other things with me. So I just want to say that that's ingrained in my learning or in my brain, because that's what I do. And now I include phone because it's got all of my everything in it. But I think that if I tried hard enough, I could undo that. I could, stop carrying my hanky. I could stop carrying my wallet. It's my choice. And if anybody has a disability of any kind, unless they can't walk or things of that nature, you could open up for example, a detailing business. You could open up a business where, like something that the Mormon Church does that I really, really endorse, is they have volunteers. But if, say, you're an old lady or an old man and you can't walk very good, you can't lift a lot of weight, you write letters. They find what you can do, and you do it. And I think that there's social constructs and blockages in the United States where it's like, okay, so you have this type of disability, you're out for the count. And if I could say the words that went with BS, I would say it. But BS. If you want to do something, do it. And the only person stopping you is you.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, it's in my email signature, is whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, by
Henry Ford.
Yeah.
It's on my wall. I got
Really?
so many quotes on my wall. When you asked me about my coming out story, I forgot to give you the quote by, of all people, Richard Nixon. Quote, always give your best, never get discouraged, and never be petty. Always remember that others may hate you, but those who hate you don't win unless you hate them. End quote.
That's really
And
good. Right there is that win unless you hate them. And I think that's so true. I think the most hate I've received in recent time hasn't. I mean, I was bullied in like middle school and stuff, but I don't know that I've gotten bullied online at all. But in the video that you found me through, the Why I Have a Pride Flag, back in September, I received quite a bit of really rude, mean, disgusting comments, and
that's being bullied. You're being bullied.
yeah, but I would say it's being bullied if it's negatively impacting me, maybe.
Right. It's only bullying if you believe what they're saying. Like
Yeah.
if you were if they were saying stuff to you and you just didn't believe it,
And-
then it wouldn't hurt and it wouldn't.
And
right?
I remember explaining to Mom, because she's like, "Why are you?" It was you and or Alyssa were saying like, "Why are you responding back to this garbage?"
I love how you do that. You troll them so hard.
Like
I love it.
I was telling her like, "Well, Mom, if you think about it, say it's a 3-minute video and it takes them a minute or two to write their comment because I put something in depth, I get all the watch time for that, which promotes the video and more people get to find it, like people like you.
So you're using it to your advantage.
I'm using it to my
Right.
advantage. Yeah,
Okay.
well,
that makes sense.
I think the
More
other,
money.
yeah. I think the other advantage that people, I hope some people see this is, if you're someone that doesn't have thick skin. I noticed, I think it was Maya, the Space Queen, commented, or someone did, that you have to have thick skin, being gay or being in the LGBTQIA community. And I think that if I can be a role model in the comment section by, there are a couple moments when there are just such absurd things being said that I was like, come on now, you just sound like a 6th grader. Like, can you up your level to like 8th grade? Like, I'm a teacher. Like,
you want better insults?
Yeah, like at least like really try to philosophize the poop out of me. Like this is some like recess level bullying. Like I would expect better. And
what I like about you doing that is you're really trying to find out like the structure, for the lack of a better word, as to why they have those beliefs. Like if they say all gays are going to burn in hell, if you try to engage with these people, many times they're going to say either nothing, or they're going to call you bad names. I've seen you called the F word. I've seen you been called the R word.
Yep.
RETARD.
Yep.
And man, it's just, if you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah.
Why do you take that time out of your day to put so much negativity out in the world? Like it just, it's so crazy to me, because I could spend 3 minutes or a minute and a half writing down ideas for my podcast, or Zach could do it for his channel, or ideas for my manuscript book about the how to start your business cheap. And I kind of wanted to ask you, because this has been something I've kind of been battling in my head. what does your chat think about like maybe a 10-page manuscript? I don't know if that's the correct word, for how to start a business legally for under $100. Would that be something that interests anybody?
Based on the people that I recognize in the chat, I don't know that many of them are business owners or entrepreneurs, but I know I certainly would be interested in that, because I feel like I've always considered starting businesses of wanted to get an LLC. And it's always like, there's always a little part of me that's like, yeah, but I don't want to drop $600 on an LLC and a lawyer. Or, like Alyssa and I, we bought our first multifamily home back in January, and we wanted to put that under an LLC so that we could have it managed as a business rather than as like like a
Zach, I'll privately help you.
What's up?
I'll privately help you.
We'll talk more about that offline, I suppose.
Yeah, privately help you if you're interested.
Okay. Yeah, let's definitely talk about that.
Awesome.
Do you own any? Do you own real estate?
No, but I am, and I'm giving you classified information right now. I'm putting my foot in the water of real estate.
Yeah.
Because that's the house market in Utah is booming.
Yeah.
I am buying oil stock because in Utah that's booming. My dad has worked in the oil field for 30 years. And he's climbed his way up the ranks. And my first business was actually in the oil field. But I always buy, when I buy stocks, I always buy Apple. I don't buy, I used to always buy Google, but with the adpocalypse, quote unquote, happening, I won't buy Google anymore. But I replace that with Nike, and then I always buy Halliburton because, yeah, there's possibilities that the stocks fall, but yeah, I invest money into stocks, and I invest money into the wrestling company, WWE.
Really?
Not because I'm necessarily a fan,
but you believe
that they're doing very good. They're moving to Fox for $2 billion. So their stock's going through the roof. And I bought stock before that happened. So hopefully I can cash of that. But yeah,
Dewey, I'm going to cut you off for a second. In the chat, a bunch of people have actually just expressed quite a bit of interest. A couple of people pointed out that they're kind of broke, but still interested. So yeah, I think under $100, I imagine starting a business, one of the main hurdles is having money to start your business. And I know that's one of my main hangups. So it sounds like you definitely get some interest there, and I would happily read parts of it, or I would do a review on it, or I can certainly help you advertise it when you finish it.
Awesome. Could you put my email in the chat? And people that are interested, they can email me, and when it's finished, I can. I don't know whether or not I should sell it for like $1.99, or if I should just give it away for free.
I was gonna say one of my projects I've been thinking about doing has been, I wanted to create like a free ebook or something that's similar to Ideas Over Coffee, but maybe a bit distilled, that I could give away as a free ebook. One is sort of like a way to grab people's email addresses and stuff, but I was thinking about making one which are like top 10 things that I see students struggle with that they can deal with on their own. Like like test anxiety, like study skills, like the top couple things I see a lot of students struggle with, and what I would do about them as a parent or as a teacher, or like if the student really wants to end some of those problems, what I would recommend for them. So I've been thinking about doing something similarly, and I've also considered, like, should I have it be worth $1 or $2, or should I just give it to them for free? So
I'd do it for $1 or $2.
Somebody says here, if you give it away, it's Skylar's. If you give it away, then get their email address.
Yeah. And hey, that could be something that you just put on like your that could come with like the Patreon subscription or something.
There you go. Yeah. Follow me on, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I'll definitely post a link to it.
Dewey, send me a text with your Twitter and I'll put it in the description.
Okay, it's I'll send you a text. Is that what you want? A phone text?
Yeah, I'm much more efficient with copy and pasting.
Perfect.
All right, I'm putting your email into the chat.
Okay, perfect.
So this is your first time as a guest on a Google Hangout on YouTube live stream, right?
Oh yeah, this is my first interview, period.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, how many interviews have you done on your podcast before?
3. I've interviewed 3 people. You'll be my 4th.
And what type of people did you have on before?
I did an interview with Seth because he says his life is super boring, but it's actually quite interesting. His great-grandpa is called the Million Mile Cowboy, which I thought was quite interesting. So we went to his family history. I interviewed a guy named Tony Winchester, who's a YouTuber. He has like 100 and some thousand subscribers. And while we're on that note, I'm making a bold prediction. By the end of the year, I think that Zach's gonna have over 100,000 subscribers.
That is bold, but I'll play that game, because I figure if I think about the kind of things that I would have to do to make that happen, I don't want to pull off track. What were you just saying besides that?
Well, you gotta answer it when I'm finished. Deal? Okay. So, and I've interviewed a kid named, he has his last name, he keeps out of the public for personal reasons, but his name's Mikey. He is also a YouTuber. He's got about 60,000 subscribers. He is a singer and also obsessed, and I mean that in the strongest possible way, with Ariana Grande. And then I interviewed but took down an interview with someone who used to work with the CIA, and apparently I got in a little bit of trouble because they kind of, not a whole lot, but they kind of put in a little bit of classified information. So I had to take it down.
Yeah.
It was a scary process, by the way.
Well, the process of taking it down?
Yeah. His name was Jeffrey. And he was in the CIA mission statement. It says that they don't operate within the United States, but that's a bunch of baloney because they do. If you look, but it was, anyways, it was he was talking about a classified document that didn't hurt national security, but it wasn't declassified by the president or anybody from the CIA quite yet. And so he got in a little bit of trouble, and they got my address. Nobody came to my house or anything, but I got some threatening phone calls saying, if you don't take that down, you're going to be arrested for treason. And I'm thinking, oh man, I'm taking it down. Calm down. It was scary. A lot of people I've told that to, they're like, man, that's pretty unbelievable that your little podcast would cause such an issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was talking about like a document that was about to be released.
Yeah. There's a question from Scout and Friends. Where is everyone on here at in the world? What country or state? So Scalar, Dewey is from Utah in the U.S. Let's see. Libby Easton's out of the U.K. I don't know a lot of the other people. I know Miss Kathy and Jesse, she headed out, but I believe she's out of Ohio. Yeah, now I'm curious as to know where the other people are from as well.
What was the girl's name from the UK, Zach?
Libby Easton.
Libby, I'm going to challenge you with the question. I think very, very highly of Queen Elizabeth. I'm like an expert on her just because I've done so many book reports on her and watched hours upon hours of documentaries about her. And I think that she's such a noble, amazing woman. What are your thoughts about your queen? If you have any. And I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just was, I don't have any friends or anything from the UK, so I figured I'd ask.
I'll tell you the coolest thing about, sometimes one of the coolest things about having a YouTube channel is because it reaches everywhere. Like the other day I made a WhatsApp group to gather together some friends, and I realized I had, I think, 5 continents within the chat. I had Australia. Oh no, maybe it wasn't that many. Wait.
What is WhatsApp?
WhatsApp is, it's like Facebook owns it, but it's similar to like GroupMe or Skype. It just allows like international communication that looks like texting. It's good for like group chats. It's good for international phone calls. It's
okay. So if I downloaded that, would you be active on there?
I don't know how much I'm going to end up using it, but yeah, it's definitely, it can be a good place if you're trying to interact with people. Like I'm not that fast with email. I have a bad, my email gets flooded. So
yeah,
the good messages get like watered down along with all the other notifications for things. But
so from now on, when I email you, I'm going to put in bold letters, must answer.
Okay. Yeah, my mom's nodding her head over here. She's taking a little break for a minute, but she's nodding her head because I don't always answer her emails or text for that matter with great speed.
So, Zach, I have 2 questions for you, and this is, you've interviewed me, but I think I've interviewed you more, and I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
But you're an interesting guy, and I feel like I'm asking questions that your audience wants to know. But will your mom be willing to do my podcast? I won't swear through the whole thing.
Like individually, or you want her to join me on the podcast that I'm coming on for?
Whatever she chooses.
She'll do an interview, she said.
Awesome. So did you want to do it with
famous.
me? Did you want to do it with Zach, or did you want to do it by yourself?
I'll do it with Zach.
She said she'll do it. But by the way, Libby answered your question. Well, I think she's brilliant, honestly, and I think it's great that she is persisting to be amazing, be an amazing, noble person in her older age.
Yeah, she's a pretty amazing person. There was somebody emailed me once, and they were from the UK, and they said, talk about the fact that the Queen's a cannibal.
What?
Yeah, that she kidnaps children from Canada, and that's how she stays so energetic in her old age, is she's a cannibal. And I'm like, I'm not talking about that. She's too graceful.
Yeah, it's
I've
just
got too much respect for her.
My friend Ty has just come on. I told him a
What's
couple
up,
hours.
guys?
Hey, Ty.
What's going on, man?
Ty has his own YouTube channel, Ty Speaks, and I invited him to be a co-host / guest along with me. He's jumped on about, I don't know, 3 or 4 live streams by now, and we've collabed quite a bit. So
yeah, pretty much.
To fill you in a little bit, Ty, wow, we've covered quite a bit of area, Dewey. We've talked about your coming out story. We talked a little bit about how you and I met. We talked a little bit about your businesses. We've talked about general hate and or love for the LGBTQAI community.
Let me hear the summary. I want to get to know you some more.
Let's see, Ty. Maybe let's. I'm trying to think of one of the. Let me check, see if there's any questions I had that I haven't asked yet. I guess, Dewey, you did answer why you started your podcast, which was that you were sort of very energetic, like you had a strong opinion about something.
Right.
But I don't know that you've necessarily answered the question of like, why do you enjoy doing it, or what is it that pushes you to continue creating your podcast?
Yeah, I tend to ramble quite a lot.
I think we all do.
I ramble.
Yeah, I agree.
I ramble on incoherently, but why I love to do it, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like when I first started, never did I think that I was going to get sponsored by Audible. Never did I think that I could even there's another sponsor that I have, but since Joan's in the room, I'm not going to talk about it. And there's children watching.
There could be. I don't know if there are any. Well, yeah, I guess there are children. 14 years old, it's definitely children.
Yeah, but I got I've just reached out to people and got sponsors, but I never wanted. That was never my main goal, to monetize the podcast. It makes it a lot more enjoyable because money's cool, but you connect with people, and my episodes of the Dewey Show podcast, which by the way is available on Apple, SoundCloud, iTunes, Pocket Cast, probably everywhere podcasts are. I'm not in charge of that part, but I enjoy getting emails from people who like Zach. They email you and say, "What do you think about this situation?" Bullied, and I've done so many anti-bullying. I've made my stance very clear on anti-bullying on the Dewey Show podcast numerous times, and they ask me, what do I'm gay and I'm getting beat up. I don't know if my parents are okay with me. And Zach, I wanted to address this. You answer the question perfectly when they ask you about that. But there's something that I want you to preface it with, if you don't mind me putting my 2 cents in.
Go ahead.
So I like when you preface it, you say like you should have an ally who knows you're gay, and if it's a friend, make sure their parents know you're gay, and if they're cool with it, then you have then you talk to them and say, look, I'm about to come out to my mom and dad, and I might get kicked out, because unfortunately that happens. So if that happens, can I stay with you? Otherwise, I would wait until you have your own income, which you've said before, Zach.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to make sure that you've got a place to stay so that you don't have to sleep on the streets.
Right.
So, Dewey, what exactly is your podcast about? Because I wasn't here when you guys were talking about it earlier, but I want to get to know what's more about. Because Zach was telling me earlier how you have a pretty big following and that you get some pretty good recognition for your podcast. So I just want to know a little bit more about what that's about.
Well, Ty, the intro to my podcast is Welcome to the Dewey Show, where he talks about anything and everything awesome, which that is subjective. But I, as he said, I was talking. I first started my podcast because there was folks with the women's marches in Washington after Donald Trump won, and folks with Black Lives Matter who were getting violent. And I'm not talking about Charlottesville. That's a whole episode. That's a whole different thing. But they were getting violent towards nonviolent people, and I just went on there and said, if you get violent, violence is never the answer because you hurt your cause. I felt very strongly about that enough to make an episode. And then I got a couple followers on Twitter, and I started my Twitter in like 2008, and I started podcasting last year. And so I changed the handle to Dewey Show. And I went from having like 15 followers to like 200 and some followers. And I get questions all the time and emails and stuff that says, hey, would you talk about this? And there's, I think, okay, that could be interesting. So I write it down. I write down 4 things, and then I do a poll. And whatever the audience on Twitter thinks I should talk about, I talk about it. So I've spoken about serial killers.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I've went in very, very deep in depth.
Any specific serial killers or just in general?
It's specific. There's several. Like we did one with Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy. We did one with.
It's a famous one.
And a lot. They got great responses. And that's kind of where my audience came in, because for whatever reason they're so attracted to the macabre type thing. And then I kind of started feeling like I don't want my podcast to be totally about this. So I started talking about news, and that got for me personally. And now I'm kind of in a rut, so I haven't posted in a long time. And so I thought I would I would try to interview Zach on Saturday. Him and his mom, I'm going to interview, and he's going to hopefully get me back in this in the game. But I don't want to go back to talking about serial killers. Not saying that's never going to happen again. I don't want to go back and talk about the news because it's boring to me. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. You want to talk about interesting topics
Yeah.
that you can create awesome conversations with.
Have you heard of Joe Rogan?
It sounds familiar. Can you refresh my mind?
Sure. He has a podcast called The Joe Rogan Experience, and I think he's the third most subscribed person
Yeah, that's
podcast-wise in the world.
Popular. Joe Rogan?
Very popular.
Yeah.
And he has a something. What's that, Zach?
You would know Joe Rogan. He's like, you see, he used to be the host of Fear Factor.
Oh, okay. Yep. I
think he was like a UFC fighter, like host or something.
Yeah. He's yeah. But he said that if I'm interested in a topic, then my audience is going to be interested in the topic.
Exactly.
And if they're not, he said it's too bleeping bad because
yeah.
I want to talk about what I want to talk about, you know.
Exactly.
And my show is explicit, but when I have guests on like Zach, I try to be respectful, and you know, if I talk about someone who, like when I spoke about the shooting in Florida, I didn't put ads on that. I spoke about it in a very respectful way, and it's really hard to. It's not hard to be respectful, but it's hard to go from, you know, saying the F word every other word.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't, but I do say it. To point to saying, you know, I think I did cuss a couple of times in that, but it was towards the shooter, and I don't know. It's hard to gauge whether or not your audience is thinking it's entertaining or not.
Right. Is there any way you can interact with your guests while you're on the podcast? Because do you just do audio podcasts, or is it visual too?
I do audio podcasts.
And
Zach's trying to get me to do visual as well.
Yeah, man.
I've already converted Ty into doing live streams of converted
that's the new
friends.
Hey, Zach, I started another channel.
You did?
Yeah, it's called Dewey Vlogs.
Interesting. Now, why not just keep it going on the channel that you have?
Well, because I got the copyright strike.
Oh,
right.
Did Zach, is it okay if I tell him why?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, back in 2011 or so, I donated a substantial amount of money to the NRA because I still am a Second Amendment guy. I think that we should all have the ability to own guns and for protection, for whatever. But I think that there needs to be gun control. I kind of subscribe to the March for Our Lives kids ideology.
Yeah.
And basically like that, where they're like, look, we're not trying to take guns away. We just want it to be harder for you to have a magazine clip with 20 rounds in it, or have military grade weapons.
Yeah, or get rid of bump stuff.
Yeah, and so basically what happened was the NRA sent me a sticker, and they were wanting money, and attached to the sticker was a sheet saying, oh, contribute this, and that. And I kind of went on this diatribe where I was saying, because I don't know if you guys have kept up with the NRA recently, but they're saying that they want to legalize silencers for guns. and
Really?
they support all kinds of just very deadly stuff. Where Zach's an educator, I'm sure that he's trained in what to do if a shooter comes into his school.
Yeah.
And why in America, the best country on the globe, why should we even have to have teachers taught that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Why can't we stop bad people from getting guns? And the NRA, they're like, let them buy guns, because guess what? We make money because these gun companies donate a large amount of money to the NRA. But anyway, with this sticker, what I did is I grabbed a water bottle similar to this, poked a small hole in the top of it, and it was a full bottle of water, and I put just a drop of yellow food coloring in it. And I shook it up, and I made it look like I was peeing on the sticker, and I got a strike.
Oh,
I wanted
really?
it to be a political statement, but
Right.
it didn't make it that
I
far.
feel like I'm surprised you got a strike for that. I mean, does you get strikes for being like political or?
Well, and I obviously, since it was with a bottle, I didn't show anything.
Right. So it as well looked like just straight urine.
Yeah, and so I'll have to forward you the email, Zach, but it was like it was sexually explicit, this, that, and the other, and I'm thinking, what?
That's weird. I've seen worse things here on YouTube from bigger channels and from smaller channels, and they continue to put out that kind of content, and I don't see them getting any strikes, or I don't hear about it.
You're still gonna go to try to appeal it, right?
I appealed it, and they said that it's going to remain. So I started the Dewey Vlogs channel so that I can live stream my podcast.
Yeah.
And once I get enough subscribers there, I'm going to make it youtube.com/Dewey show. So the one I have now is youtube.com/DeweyF, but I can't change it.
Yeah.
But anyhow, yeah, I meant to ruffle feathers with that video, but at the same time, I gave commentary before I peed on the sticker. And maybe that wasn't the right route. Maybe I should have just posted my commentary. But if you look at the Logan Paul situation where everybody's heard about it, the dead body controversy, that video was on YouTube's trending page for like 4 hours. And then when people started seeing this and saying, man, that ain't right, then they took him off of trending, and then they took the video down, and he had no repercussions until he decided that he was going to do something with a dead rat or whatever it was. And then they're like, oh, we're going to take him off of Google preferred ads. I think that showing a dead body is far more worse than food color water.
Yeah.
Especially where I didn't show any genitalia. You know?
That should call for like his channel being removed.
Oh yeah. I spoke about that. And I called him a dip S. I promised Zach I wouldn't cuss. But I said that I gave suicide prevention numbers for US, Canada, and UK. I did it for all of them I could find. But imagine that family's grief if they found out about that. That was my loved one hanging from that tree, and that doofus filmed it for content, I'd probably go up there and I'd probably punch him.
Yeah.
And I know I said violence hurts your cause, but, you know, if that was my loved one hanging from a tree and he's like, oh, content, let me pose for, I got to look for the thumbnail. I've got to look like I'm totally scared or taken aback by this. But let's make sure that we get the body in the thumbnail, and let's make sure that the time code doesn't go over the body. And he poses for the picture with the body. It's like, how sick do you have to be?
Yeah.
You know, I could go on and on about that, but I thought it was unfair that he didn't get a strike from it.
Because I feel like YouTube must make a certain amount of money off of Logan Paul existing there. Like,
Absolutely.
Vine probably gained a lot from having good Viners out there. So, I mean, Logan's up to like what, 16, 17, 18, 19 million or something. I know Jake like 16 million because I was sadly watching his video because I wanted to make a remix of one of his songs. Which, by the way, if anyone's in the chat, I still have yet to find the instrumental to Jake Paul's My Teacher's song, and I desperately want it because my time's running out for that being trending and that possibly going viral.
I don't know about that, Zach, because people still, if you look at Everyday Bro or whatever, there's still people making parodies of that.
That's true.
And it's the most disliked video in the history of YouTube. So I think that anything Jake...
Wait, it's Rebecca Black's Friday?
I'm sorry?
I thought that the most disliked video of all time was Rebecca Black Friday.
I think he surpassed it. I might be wrong. Let me look. Yep. You type it guy and it's Everyday Bro pops up number one. It's got 198 million views. And it's got 2.4 million thumbs up and 3.6 million thumbs down.
That's so great.
Jeez.
And there's people making parodies of that still to this day.
That's true.
And so I think that anything Jake Paul does, as long as Jake Paul's relevant, I think that any parody you do will be relevant.
Absolutely.
All right.
There's this YouTuber that you know Andrea Jenkins, right?
I don't.
Well, she's a YouTuber and she does reactions to some of what Jake Paul does, and she gets a well amount of views on that. Pretty big number.
So Rebecca Black's Friday song has 3.1 million thumbs down and 832,000 thumbs up, which I think is sad because she seems like a sweet girl.
I think she pretty much paid them to like write a music video. I think it was because it was so catchy and so bad at the same time. Everyone hated it.
Yeah, I know, but she got like death threats and stuff for it. I'm not saying Jake Paul deserves that, but like him and his brother are horrible people. They're moles on the backside of history.
Dang.
You know, they're horrible people. They don't care about their viewers. Have you listened to their music? It's like, go buy my merch, go buy my merch. And then they turn around and say, oh, go buy this stupid song where I constantly repeat, buy my merch. Go buy that on iTunes.
Yeah.
You know, and then they compete with each other. Well, so since Jake made a video like that, I have to as well, Logan speaking. And it's just like, you guys are making a ton of money off of your merch. Like, why not do something for your fans? So if I was making that much money off of my fans, you can believe that I would do something, whether it was fund a ton of meet and greets. I'd try to go to every state in the U.S. and meet people who wanted to meet me, you know, and I would be there until the last person was there. I don't care if it took 48 hours to sign, take a picture, whatever, but he's charging people a crazy amount of money to meet him. And it's like, dude, you're not, in the grand scheme of things, you're really not that important, you know.
Yeah.
Like I think that Jake needs to go to sensitivity training, and I think Logan does, for that matter.
I was gonna say something. I don't think I'll actually buy the video for it, or I'm sure it'll be like a pay-per-view or something. Is the Logan Paul versus KSI fight? They're doing a second like YouTuber versus YouTuber boxing match between KSI and Logan Paul, and I'm absolutely rooting for KSI.
Oh, 100%. What
Didn't they
what
before?
if I don't know if it'll be pay-per-view, but I know that it'll be live streaming. So what we should do, Zach, is you, myself, and Ty, I'll buy it if it costs money to buy it. I'll buy it, and we've got to watch the fight together. We could live stream it.
Yeah, we could.
That'd be awesome.
We could share live stream and have like live commentary on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But Logan Paul, he's gonna get knocked out.
Yeah, KSI's been training.
Yeah, and Logan Paul's like, well, look, I'm ripped. You know, I'm gonna beat him up. But yeah, no, KSI's gonna mop the floor with him. I bet it doesn't even last through the first round. And isn't that crazy though that YouTubers are boxers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, Ty, maybe someday when we get famous enough, we can box each other and get paid a lot of money for fun.
I was gonna
Definitely.
say maybe Zach or Ty, because you guys would be tougher than me. You guys should fight Logan Paul when the referee's not looking. Pull like a WWE and do it like a low blow when the ref's not looking, or throw sawdust in their eyes.
I'm gonna say I'm not much of a fighter. I'm pretty like, I'd like to think that I'm fairly built, but I'm like looking at Logan, like I'm pretty sure he's definitely stronger than me, and I probably would not want to face off against him.
Hey man, physique is what's the word?
Overrated?
Yeah, I mean it's I just had the word in my head. What's the word?
It's important. Physique is important. Know what you mean?
Oh, I meant physique is misleading. A lot of people could have a nice physique, but
True.
That's not where the strength comes from.
And by the way,
a lot of Chuck Liddell's fights. I know I'm dating myself, but look at a lot of his fights. He knocked out some really big, strong guys, and he's not this built like a brick house type guy. He had a little bit of flab on him, and he went undefeated for like X amount of fights.
Yeah. And by the way, Dewey, to give you an idea of me and Ty's bodies, we're both 6. I think I'm just 6'5" with wearing shoes, but we're both 6'4".
You're 6. Holy moly!
Yeah.
Dude, I'm 6 foot tall.
Yeah. So if we were to stand next to each other, I'd have about 4 inches on you.
Yeah, I'm 6 foot tall, and when I step on the scale, it says error.
Oh.
No, I weigh about 240 or so, but I work out, you know,
Not that big. I'm like 215.
Yeah, I'm like 205, I think.
You're
I'm around
6'5",
205.
Bill.
I
My
remember
doctor says that
muscle
I'm
was
pretty
more than
broad,
fat.
so he said that I could use that as an excuse. But I do do a lot of benching. I do a lot of weightlifting. I'm not a big cardio guy, so I do have a fat belly. But Seth don't care, so why should I?
Right.
Until if I start getting obese, then I need to worry.
By the way, dude, I got a new question for you. I'm gonna sort of switch topics.
Shoot, man.
Do we had talked the other day about you started writing a like a goals list. What is one of the bucket list or goals list things that you've started thinking about / working on?
Probably the biggest one is the same one I answered on the phone with you. Is I want to expand DF detailing, which, by the way, I just gave away my business name so they can find me on Google, and I just gave away that they could find me on Google. Oh well. But anyway, I want to expand that to, if you have a car detail, if you need a car detail, hit me up. But no, I want to expand it to my surrounding states and states that surround them. And I don't necessarily want to go all 50 states. That's really unreasonable. But within the next 10 years, I want to be in at least 8 states, and I see that being obtainable. And another 10-year goal is to still be with Seth. That's to hold on to him.
I was gonna say that statement right there is what led to my proposal to Alyssa. Was I realized it was a 10-year goal. I still wanted to be with Alyssa.
How did you and her meet?
Say that again.
How did you and Alyssa meet?
If you've ever heard of the Landmark Forum, it's like a 3-day personal development type course. You ever heard of it?
No.
But Landmark Forum, it's a Landmark itself is a professional personal development company. I took the second course in their curriculum for living, the advanced course, and it's where you learn a lot about yourself. What you'll discover in the book is I actually talk quite a bit about some things I learned there. I actually had to speak with Landmark's legal department to make sure I wasn't stealing any of their intellectual property by putting it in my book. But what I learned in that course was a lot about myself, how I use language, and how the language that I use defines my reality. And we met in one of those courses. She walked over into my group when they asked who were going to be the group leaders. So I raised my hand to be group leader. She walked over in there because she said I look cute. And then
Because she said you were cute?
Yeah. And she said that I got everyone's phone numbers because as a group leader, you have your goal for the weekend is to make sure that everybody in your group gets like everything that they wanted out of the course. Landmark's kind of a weird type education where you can
builds leadership for sure.
Yeah. So the strange thing is, like, when you go into like geometry class, like, you know what you're going to get. You're going to learn about shapes and lines and like measurements. When you go into the Landmark Forum, you just have no idea what you're going to get. You're going to get some tools to deal with whatever issues you're dealing with in your life, or whatever challenges or whatever next levels that you're facing. And you could take the course again and get something different, because a huge portion of the course itself is hearing other people's experience with it. So, for example, the keystone item of it is the vicious circle and having people get that one of the main things that we all do in our lives is we observe something happening, and then once we've observed it, we make up a story about it. So let's say I remember in my course there was a guy that he said, you know, my wife broke my heart because she said she wanted to have like 3 or 4 or 5 kids, and we had our first one, and then she didn't want to, or no, and then we got married, and then she changed her mind. She didn't want to have kids anymore, and so his story was, she broke my heart, and the course leader pointed out, no, she didn't break your heart. If we do an X-ray of your body, we're not going to find anything broken. What really happened? And he's like, no, like she broke, like, and I remember it was the most uncomfortable, like maybe 30 minutes any of us had anticipated. We're sitting there for 40 minutes watching the forum leader have this discussion with this guy in front of like 130 people. And they went back and forth like, no, like she broke my heart. And what you realize is that the entire audience like eventually understands it before the guy up there gets it,
Right.
which is that what really happened was that she changed her mind. And what he made up about that was that his heart was broken and that their relationship was broken because of that. And when he realized that you can actually just look at it objectively instead of subjectively, that you can be freed up from a lot of the struggle and suffering that we put ourselves through. So,
and that's in your book?
not the vicious circle, because that was their intellectual property, but I talk a lot about how we can be objective, how we can look at things through a different lens. Like I think the whole second part of my book is reframing it, which is, it's sort of like the other night when I said to you, you don't need to feel guilty. You just brought a superior product to your community with your detailing business, which was the same value for a lower dollar value. That changed the context with which you were looking at the same issue. So really all we have to do most of the time in life to end some of our suffering is if we can find a new lens to look at something through. And sometimes it's really challenging to change our perspective. But most of the time, perspective is all that we need to change to end our suffering.
Right. It's sort of like responding to what happens to you and using the situation that happens to you in a positive way, instead of, overthinking it, and instead of thinking that, it's the end of the world. And in case of that situation, this guy was thinking, oh, my wife told me one thing, and then when it comes around to that thing actually happening, she changes her mind. So now she doesn't love me anymore. She broke my heart because she told me something, and then she ended up changing her mind. When in reality, like how you were saying, you could just look at it as like, no, she just changed her mind. She didn't go out of her way to upset him or try to break his heart, but it's just, she's her own person, he's his own person, and she decided to make a decision or change her mind.
I've got kind of a similar story to that. So Seth and I met in 2013, and at the first part of 2014, and it was quick in a lot of people's mind, but I proposed. And it wasn't like, oh, I know we can get married, because at the time it was still illegal.
Yep.
But I was thinking, why not go to Canada or something? Just have a ceremony. Yep. And Seth said, yes, absolutely. I want to marry you. And he also, something I wanted, and it was a deal breaker at the time, was if the partner didn't want to have kids, that was a deal breaker, because I want to be a dad.
Yeah.
And last year Seth came up to me and said, I have 2 things that I need to come clean about because it's killing my conscience. And I said, okay. And he said, I don't want to get married. And it's not that I don't want to get married to you. It's just that I don't want to get married. And I don't want to have kids. And that really challenged my relationship, because I had to do a lot of thinking. It's like, do I love Seth enough to let these things go? And so I asked him for his reasoning and stuff like that, which I'll keep private. But, he said it wasn't that he didn't want to get married to me. It was that he didn't want to get married. Because he was afraid that if he got married to me and for whatever reason, if we got divorced, that it would be far more brutal and we wouldn't remain friends afterward. Whereas where we're just boyfriends, I consider him my husband. Like I've got a tattoo on my finger. And he considers me his, but he's afraid that, if we got married, we wouldn't remain friends, because the divorce situation can be very taxing on your relationship. And, I had to kind of step back from it, and I consulted my mom. I consulted Seth's mom. And I consulted a therapist about it.
Yeah.
And they all came to the same conclusion. They said, Seth loved you enough to be honest with you.
Yeah. It's huge.
Are you going to be able to give that up? If not, you need to be honest with him. And so I thought about it and I brooded, but mostly started thinking about it. Finally, I came to the conclusion that maybe having kids isn't all that it's cracked up to be. Maybe I can just take the love I would have for my kids and put it towards my nieces. Maybe I can spoil them. Maybe I can love them. And as far as marriage is concerned, Seth wears his ring every day. He doesn't take it off even when he showers. So I know he's loyal to me. And he said, what is it about marriage that's so important to you? All you get is a piece of paper. And I said, yeah, but you also get a commitment. Yeah. And he said, so you don't think that we're committed? And yeah. I was upset at him because he one-upped me in that argument, because I was like, oh man, I'm gonna win this argument, but he one-upped me on that, and I got upset, and I said, yeah, you're right, whatever, so I thought about it, and it's surprising the way that love is able to make your views adapt. And don't get me wrong, Seth has sacrificed a lot for me too. For example, where I live, it's a rural area. It's a farm town. I live here because my family does, and Seth's family lives in Idaho. And he could put up a fuss and say, no, I don't want to live where you live now. It's a hillbilly town. We can't even hold hands because we're afraid of being lynched. Let's go live in Boise, where it's a little bit more liberal. And he could throw a fit about that, but he didn't, because he knew how important my family is to me. Whereas with him, he loves his family and they're important to him, but they're scattered throughout the United States. He's got 8 siblings, and one lives in Oregon, some live in Wisconsin, some live in Idaho, and they're scattered, And so he doesn't see them much, and he's used to that. he and his mom are still very close. She lives in Idaho. We're going to fly to Wisconsin at the tail end of July to go to his family reunion. And we've been together almost 5 years, and I'll be meeting some of his siblings for the first time. And, it's long story short, it's interesting what love can make you do,
Right.
Yeah.
and it's interesting how it can twist not twist it, but kind of make you evolve on matters, because is marriage still important to me? Yeah, it is. But I know where Seth stands now, so I don't have the notion that, okay, he's going to want to marry me. I know where he stands, and excuse the expression, well, actually, I'm not going to say it because I promised Zach, but it took a lot of intestinal fortitude or guts to come to me with those things. And Zach asked Seth earlier, what is the main thing that you like about Dewey? And it's no matter how mad he gets, he's still there for you.
Yeah.
And I have a temper, not to where I get to violence, but I'll scream and I'll huff and I'll puff, and
blow the house over.
Work about. What's that?
Blow the house over.
I can't hear you. What was that?
I think it's blow the house down.
Blow
the house down. Zach, I'm going to put you on the spot. So I'm pretty sure you were about to want to wrap up. I sent you a picture of kind of like a prototype, for lack of a better word, logo.
Yeah. Text or email? Email? Did you send it in email?
No, I texted it to you. Already texted to you.
Hey, Dewey, by the way, when you interview Zach, where can I listen to it?
You can go to deweyshow.com.
Awesome.
Dewey is spelled Dewey.
The link is in the description.
Okay, perfect. I'll check it out.
Yeah, and if you want to listen to it, say you have an iPhone, on the main page it says listen here for your specified wherever you listen to your podcast. But I will work hard to get Zach's interview up the same day, because I edit it, and I don't know if Zach's going to give classified information, so I have to delete parts of it.
I'm usually pretty good at divulging only I feel like you have to get really good at not sharing information that you don't want out there when you live stream this much. So I don't think you'll have to worry about that.
Well, did you, Ty, did you speak about did you hear about the thing about the CIA guy I interviewed?
I didn't hear about that. What was that about?
Or you did?
No, I didn't.
No, you did not.
So, in my interview with him, there was a document that was going to be declassified, like I think in a month or something, and he gave up some very small details about that. And
really,
I got phone calls from the CIA, not necessarily. I don't know if it was the CIA.
Wow. That's scary.
What it was, but they're like, you take this down or else you'll be charged with treason.
Oh, so, wow. Treason. That's still a thing in the United States? Treason? What the heck?
Yeah, you could get the death penalty for it.
Really?
Yeah.
What the heck? I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, and in the UK, treason is the only the only crime that you can commit where you get the death penalty.
Really? How would they charge you with treason?
Where you conspire with other countries to hurt the United States, I guess.
You can't come to the United States, you'll be arrested.
In that case, how would they have charged you?
Information.
You'd have to ask someone smarter than I.
I'll do some research on that because that sounds very interesting.
Maybe we could do a
Snowden is
podcast
something that
episode.
you learn about.
Yeah, dude, that would be awesome. I would love to talk more about that because that's crazy. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah,
Especially in the
Edward
United
Snowden.
States.
He was the one that he's not WikiLeaks, right? He
Yeah,
leaked it.
Or no, that was Julius Assange.
But
Yeah, Julius.
Yeah, but
Julian
Snowden-
Assange.
Yeah, and Snowden is
NSA.
where is he in Russia now? There's somewhere he's being protected. But
Yeah,
he
used to
comes
work
back
for
into
the
the United
NSA.
States, they're going to arrest him. He would definitely be for treason.
They made
He
a
told all this information. He gave out all this information that was top secret.
they made a
Yeah,
movie
it
about
was-
that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
they did.
sure.
Yeah.
The NSA was using their intelligence to spy on American people when in front of Congress, the leader of the NSA said, nope, we're not doing it. And he was called BS on that and released a bunch of classified information. And I don't know if he immediately fled to Russia, but yeah, I think, Joan, I think that he's seeking shelter in Russia.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's
Say,
some serious stuff.
Yeah, I read somewhere that Russia's given him 5 more years there, which I'm surprised that Vladimir Putin isn't like, oh, hey, Donald, since we're best friends, here's your treasonous person. And I don't think personally, if I was the president, I would pardon Snowden because he brought a lot forward to the American people. He did commit a crime, but it was for the better of the country, I believe.
Why do you think it was for the better of the country?
Because it was showing that the NSA was spying on innocent civilians through phones and things of that nature. And
How do we know they were innocent?
you got a point. You've got a point. But the fact that they were spying on over 40,000 people, I don't think that all of those people were guilty of anything. I think that some could have been, but I'm interested in your point of view, Joan.
I don't know. I feel like, okay, this may be an unpopular view, but
Who cares? It's your
given
view.
all the ISIS and all that stuff,
Right.
I feel like we should be really sleuthing and really looking at people. And I know that probably goes against the Constitution, but it doesn't bother me that they're snooping into people's lives only because if you have nothing to hide, why would you care? Right?
Oh, Mom,
What kind of information are they going to find, like on me, for example?
Mom,
It's like,
don't you hate sharing your email and your information with people?
no, only with marketers because they're constantly hammering on you and making phone calls.
So you just don't like being annoyed, but you don't mind if the NSA takes a peek?
No, I want them to check my bags at Logan Airport, and I want them to be checking out everybody in great detail.
To be honest, I
Makes
think they do that regardless, even without permission.
Can I give you guys an example? Does anybody know who Jesse Ventura is?
Yeah, he's a wrestler, right?
Yeah, he's a wrestler turned governor of the state of Minnesota, which I got to show you something really quick.
I was gonna say, Dewey, I want to wrap it up by 9 o'clock. We'll have it for 9 more minutes. I got to I'll just show you guys hashtag life of a math teacher. I got this this nice packet that I gave to my Algebra 2 students the other day.
Jeez,
There's 70 problems on here to help them with the
70?
final that they're taking on Tuesday, and I have to create the solutions for it.
Oh
So,
my god.
That'll probably take me around an hour.
Okay.
That would
I
take
just
me
wanted
like
to
4
show
weeks.
this. It said, this is from Jesse Ventura. It says, for Dewey, the future governor of Utah, Governor Jesse Ventura. But anyway, they stopped
That's
him
awesome.
at the airport and did a cavity search on him, even though they knew that he was the governor of Minnesota. That is unreasonable.
That is unreasonable.
In the Constitution, which I carry, Article 4, I believe, I'm not going to quote it because I don't want to waste that time, but you guys know the Fourth Amendment. It prohibits unlawful search and seizure.
You have a copy of the Constitution?
Yeah.
Where can I
I
get
carry
one?
a copy of it with me every day.
Where can I get one of those?
Amazon. I got one on Amazon. This one cost me, I think, like $2.99.
What? I need to get me like 4 copies of those.
I bet you can get them
What you
from
ought to
free
do
from
is
the
just go on
government.
Wikipedia
Read
and
it
print
every
it
day.
out.
That's true too.
I bet
You
you
should
can get them
print
for
it out
free.
on Wikipedia.
That's some very important information.
They have like 5 of them.
Yeah. But I can see where you're coming from, Joan, because ISIS is really something that we need to squash quickly. And, you know, but I don't know. I just have a hard time with spying on innocent civilians.
Well, I agree. I mean, I don't want them to be doing those kinds of searches. I mean, who knows why they did that to him? They must have had, they would have to have a reason. Did he sue them otherwise?
Yeah, he sued them
He
afterward.
did? Okay. Yeah, and that is unreasonable. I totally get that.
Does cavi check mean
Yes,
they give
ma'am.
like a colonoscopy?
Something a little bit like
on some level.
a colonoscopy.
They like stick, yeah, they pretty much like a prostate check. And
Wow.
he was a former governor of the United States.
Yeah, but that doesn't make all of those people good people, as
Yeah.
you know.
I mean,
Yeah, and I can understand your point of view,
Yeah.
Joan, because you know, ISIS is something we need to worry about. And
Do you realize now that I've said this out loud, that the next time I try to get on a plane, there's going to be a scene? Because the last time I tried to get on a plane, they made me step over and they did a wanding on my hands. Have you ever had that?
well, Mom, you also have a.
I have a prosthetic hip, but that they pulled me over. I always tell them that, and they always pull me over. But the last time, they actually tested my hands for like residue.
For what?
Now I have no idea. I don't know. I triggered something, and then they were testing it.
Residue for what? They didn't tell you?
No.
They said residue?
No, I surmise that because I asked somebody later. It was they take a wand and they put it over your fingertips and the palms of your hands.
like a black light type thing?
No, it was like a sensitive
Metal detector?
probe kind of thing, like a wand. But they touched my skin with it, and then it's supposed to detect, I think, powder or some kind of residue. One of my other friends had it done to her too, and they found out it was her hand lotion or something that was setting it off.
Well, to be honest, Mom, I'm actually, that makes me feel okay, just because I feel like they're definitely not racially profiling you. So it sounds like
Yeah.
it sounds like they're
Right.
if they're supposed to do like
Yeah.
spot checks that are not at all biased.
Well, you know how people get outraged when they have to have stuff inspected at the airport? I figured nobody should be outraged. They're just trying to do it to keep us safe, you know?
Yeah, I have no
Absolutely.
problem with the TSA.
Yeah.
You know,
They have a hard job.
Yeah, imagine if you just didn't get enough sleep last night and you doze off for the quarter second that something dangerous passes through.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I was traveling with some people once, and we traveled in between states where marijuana was not legalized. They realized they made it from Colorado to Massachusetts with, or maybe it was the other way around, with like substances on them. And they're like, "Well, that's really lucky that I made it through."
Yeah,
The dog
whoops.
didn't smell it?
I think that was when they didn't have those ones where you stand there and they do like the screen thing. Like it was just like a metal detector, but yeah.
But
apologize
to me,
anyone.
the TSA is not unconstitutional.
I apologize to anyone in the chat that's been asking questions. I haven't been paying attention to it for a bit. And yes, that is my mother. That's talking in the background.
Who is that
Alex.
crazy lady?
Yeah.
Joan, I'd like to talk to you more about that topic.
About that what?
About that topic you and I were, we had different views on. About the Edward Snowden.
Oh.
But we're limited on time, so I maybe we could talk on the podcast about it.
Well, Dewey, honestly, I don't feel like I know enough to talk about it.
Okay.
Hey up, Mom.
That's fine.
Here for Alex that's coming in and Ty, I don't think you've actually seen her tonight. This is my mom.
Hi,
Hello.
nice to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you.
So this is
she's
Ty
awesome.
that I talk about all the time.
I don't know if I'm awesome.
I mean, you made me. That counts for something.
Oh, brother. Yeah, that is correct.
You sound like an awesome person, so.
Her and Zach have been very hospitable to me, so very good people.
I don't doubt it. They are. Zach is a very awesome person, so I can only imagine how his mother is.
One of these days, Zach, you and I are going to shake hands. I don't know when or where, but it's going to happen.
I was gonna say if we had this interview about a year ago, I probably would have got to see. We landed in Salt Lake City when we went to go to see the solar eclipse. We had a connecting flight in Salt Lake City so that we could. And then
I
we
drove there, man. Crap.
Yeah. So if this had happened a year ago, that could have definitely happened. But yeah, so I gotta sign off. I got a solutions guide to write for my Algebra 2 students that may or may not be freaking out about their final coming up for Tuesday. Oh,
Right.
high school
Appreciate the
children.
interview.
Say it again.
I said I appreciate the interview, and
Oh,
I appreciate
absolutely.
you not getting mad that I interviewed you too.
No, I'm egotistical and enjoy talking about myself quite a bit. So,
Good.
that's also a fun part for me, and I love exposing my viewers to other people that I think are somewhat like-minded, trying to make the world a better place. And I really do believe that that's what you're up to. And I really thank you for all of the support you've given me in the very short amount of time that you've known me. And I had to pay back. So the viewers can count on that you're going to be doing some possible live streaming on your new vlog channel.
We'll see if I can figure it out.
I guarantee you can figure out. And I mean, we can always, now that we know how to do Google Hangouts, I can screen share and show you how to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give anything a shot once.
Awesome. All right, sir. Well, I will see you Saturday. Ty, I will see you very soon. I don't know when. Mom, thank you for joining us. Thank you for making your debut on the ThinkShare.
Hey, I think that Joan has to do the yeet thing.
Oh yeah.
The what thing?
You know how I end my videos, right?
Yeah.
Can you do it?
I don't remember.
So we'll just try to
Do the yeet thing.
I'll see we'll just see what she does after I say stay weird. Just make some kind of strange noise and salute the camera.
No, I'm not gonna do
Mom, you can do it.
I'm excited for this.
I'm excited
They'll do
too.
it. They'll do it.
No, you got this, Mom.
No. Wait. Stop, you nut. No.
All right, so thank you all for watching. This has been, wow, we've been on for what, 3 hours or so, or it must be somewhere halfway between 2 and 3. But thank all of you for being such generous listeners. And we've had, I think, a peak of about 9 or 10 people on tonight. 17 likes, pretty awesome. If you like this and you want more, and especially if you want to see my mom come back to the ThinkShare, drop a like. If you weren't feeling this one, drop a dislike. If you want more from me, subscribe to the ThinkShare. If you want more from Dewey, check out, I would say, his podcast and or his Patreon or his Twitter. I have 4 different links in the chat for him.
DeweyShow.com is the best way to do it. It's DEWEY show.
Yep. And that's the third link in the descriptions.
Yep.
I can rearrange that so that one's first. If you want more from Ty, I also put his YouTube channel in the link as well. Ty Speaks. He has very similar content to mine, trying to inspire people, motivate people, have them have better lives, and
Absolutely.
talk about awesome things as well. And thank you all, and stay weird. Yay!